Oh, I should not have had that Mexican food for lunch.
Danny DeVito just turned 80. To the world, he's rich, famous, and forever funny. But behind the laughter is a life marked by rejection, violence, and constant pain. He grew up unwanted. He survived a home where police showed up again and again. And for decades, he hid a condition that made simply standing feel unbearable. Hollywood offered him millions to change his body. He burned the contract instead. But that choice came with a cost, and it's a cost he's still paying today. And it all started long before the fame. Danny DeVito's life didn't begin with dreams of Hollywood. It began with rejection. He was born in 1944 in Neptune, New Jersey, the youngest in a crowded household. His mother was already exhausted from raising other children. Years later, she admitted something that never left him. She never wanted another baby. She didn't say it with cruelty, but hearing it still carved a deep wound. At home, safety wasn't guaranteed. During the day, Danny's father ran a small candy shop and smiled at neighbors. At night, alcohol changed him. His voice grew louder, his temper shorter. Danny learned to read danger by sound, the clink of bottles, the way footsteps hit the floor. Sometimes he hid in closets, sometimes he ran to neighbors. Between ages 6 and 11, police were called to the house at least 17 times. Outside wasn't much better. The neighborhood was collapsing. Drugs were everywhere. Friends he played with as a kid didn't make it to adulthood. By 14, he understood a hard truth. If he stayed, he wouldn't survive. So he made a quiet plan to escape, and the way he pulled it off changed everything. Even after escaping his childhood, Danny DeVito couldn't escape his body. From a young age, something was wrong. He stopped growing early. By adulthood, he stood just under 5 feet tall. But the real problem wasn't height, it was pain, constant pain. Danny was living with a rare genetic bone disorder that affected how his bones developed. His hips burned, his knees locked, his back screamed. On a good day, the pain sat quietly in the background. On bad days, it took over everything. Doctors offered solutions. Hollywood offered pressure. Executives told him his body was the problem. Some suggested surgery to change his face. Others pushed more extreme ideas, bone-breaking procedures to make him taller. One studio even put real money on the table, promising fame if he would fix himself. Danny didn't negotiate. He didn't hesitate. He burned the contract. He chose pain over pretending to be someone else. What no one knew was that this decision would make his climb even harder, because now he had to succeed in an industry that didn't want him to exist as he was, and that rejection was about to become brutal. Breaking into Hollywood didn't just test Danny DeVito's talent, it tested how long he could survive with nothing. In the late 1960s, Danny auditioned constantly. Casting rooms, cold reads, silent stares. Again and again, the answer was no. Too short, too strange, too hard to place. In just a few years, he went to hundreds of auditions and walked away with almost nothing to show for it. Money disappeared fast, so did stability. He took whatever work he could find, parking cars, standing motionless in store windows like a mannequin, cleaning animal cages at the zoo. At one point, he lived out of his old Volkswagen, showering at the YMCA, and eating wherever meals were free. Some nights, he practiced lines alone just to remind himself he was still an actor. Even when he got work, it barely paid. One off-Broadway role earned him just a few dollars a week. A movie role paid so little he caught pneumonia filming in freezing water and slept in a barn to save money. Then his father got sick. When his father died, Danny was broke, exhausted, and close to done. He filled out an application for a regular job, a safe job, one that meant giving up acting forever. And on the very same day that letter arrived,
the phone rang. What was on the other end would decide the rest of his life. The phone call was for an audition. Not just any audition, but a film already surrounded by quiet buzz, a serious project, a risky one. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. What Danny didn't know yet was that fate had stacked the deck in a strange way. Years earlier, he had already played the same character on stage. The role lived in his body, the voice, the timing, the sadness behind the eyes. When he walked into the room, he didn't beg, he didn't try to impress, he just was the character. The film was shot inside a real mental hospital. Real patients filled the background. The atmosphere was heavy, uncomfortable, raw. And Danny didn't disappear into it. He stood out. He was on screen for less than 6 minutes. It was enough. The movie exploded. Awards followed. History was made. Suddenly, the man Hollywood didn't know what to do with had a name people remembered. Then came another gamble. Danny turned down movie roles, real money, to audition for a television sitcom called Taxi. Everyone told him it was a mistake. TV was smaller, safer, forgettable. Danny trusted his instincts. When the show aired, something unexpected happened. America didn't just notice him, they couldn't look away. But fame didn't erase the pain. It only changed where it followed him. Success didn't make the pain disappear. It just made it invisible. On television screens, Danny DeVito looked unstoppable. Loud, cruel, fearless. His character on Taxi became unforgettable almost overnight. Awards followed, fame locked in, casting doors finally opened. But off-camera, his body was breaking down. Long days on set meant standing for hours while his joints burned. Between takes, he sat quietly, conserving energy. When scenes ended, the smile dropped. The pain rushed back in. Doctors offered stronger medication. He refused to rely on it. Hollywood wanted consistency, not weakness, so Danny said nothing. He worked through injuries. He collapsed on set more than once and brushed it off as part of the job. He learned how to suffer silently because silence kept him employed. At the same time, pressure followed him home. Fame magnified everything. Marriage became harder. Time disappeared. The industry wanted more of him, faster. He took roles others avoided, cruel men, ugly villains, characters no one else wanted to touch. And audiences loved it. But behind every laugh was a man managing pain, exhaustion, and the quiet fear that if he slowed down, even once, Hollywood would move on without him. And soon he'd face a choice that would change not just his career, but his entire legacy. As the years passed, Danny DeVito stopped chasing approval. He started choosing meaning. Instead of fighting to stay at the center of Hollywood, he moved behind the camera. He directed, he produced, he quietly helped other voices get heard. Some of the most daring films of the 1990s existed because Danny believed in scripts others were afraid of. He also gave back in ways few people noticed. Without press releases or applause, he donated millions to children's hospitals and medical research, especially for kids with bone disorders like his. He didn't attach his name, he didn't want credit, he just didn't want other children growing up in pain, feeling ignored the way he once did. On screen, he embraced chaos. Joining It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia late in life shocked the industry. Networks worried he was too big for such a strange show. The opposite happened. Ratings jumped. A new generation met him not as a legend, but as a reckless, unfiltered force of nature. Behind the scenes, the pain worsened. By his 70s, daily life required hours of physical therapy, hanging upside down, ice baths, heat treatments. Some days, just walking onto set took everything he had. And yet, he kept showing up.
Because stopping meant sitting still long enough to feel everything he'd spent a lifetime outrunning. And now, at 80, there's one part of his story most people still don't talk about. At 80, Danny DeVito is still working, still creating, still showing up. But now the truth is harder to hide. The pain he once pushed through quietly has become part of every day. Mornings start early, not for scripts, but for therapy.
His body needs hours just to function before cameras roll. Some days the pain wins. Other days he refuses to let it. What's changed is this. He stopped pretending it doesn't exist. After decades of silence, Danny has begun talking about living in constant pain, about how Hollywood rewards strength but punishes honesty, about how many performers suffer quietly because they're afraid the truth will cost them work. And maybe it already has. Roles have slowed, appearances get canceled, doors that once opened easily don't swing the same way anymore. No one says it out loud, but the silence feels familiar. The same silence he grew up with, the same silence he's been fighting his whole life. So the real question isn't how long Danny DeVito will keep working. It's this. What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved faces refuses to hide the pain anymore in an industry built on pretending it doesn't exist? And whether the cost of finally telling the truth is still being paid.